So we're going to start exercise 217, and exercise 217 is really about creating unrollable surfaces such that you could actually laser cut a model together of your building. And while I won't make it a requirement that you laser cut your model and build me an actual version of your building, I do think it's important that you understand the techniques, because it's something that you will use down the road for sure. In my office, after I'm done talking, I'll go and I have some samples when I used to actually make people make the physical model. You can see what happens and how they glue together, so that you can see this actually does in fact work. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my building from last class. And I should have opened this ahead of time, but once it's open, we're going to talk about how do you make it into something that you can actually laser cut. And today's exercise is all about doing just that and learning the process. This is a requirement for your assignment 203. So not only do you need to have 3 renderings with beautiful skies behind your buildings, you also need to show me a laser cut file of what you would use to cut out this building if you were going to glue it together, because I think it's important enough to include it. So today is very much about learning the technique. You should have enough time today to also work on your buildings for your assignment 203 and or work on your unrollable surfaces for assignment 203. So let's go ahead and open up my file from last class. What were we in? What are we in? 217 today, so it would have been in 216. You know what? Let me go back another one here. Okay, so I have just the building here. Let me go ahead and go in shaded mode. There it is. Okay, and what we're going to be working on today is just the outer skin of the building. So I'm going to go ahead and in the layers, I'm going to turn off. Let's get rid of the floors. Let's get rid of the ceilings. And do I have we'll leave just the skin there. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this skin for a second over so that I'm working with this elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, move it over, take this and zoom selected on it. So we're looking at just the skin of the building. And so the idea here is that I want to be able to take this and make these surfaces flat so that I can cut them out, glue them back together, and they'll end up making this building. And so Rhino has a great command for it that's called unroll surface. And I could take any one individual surface and I could go up, and I forget what this is under because I always just type unroll surface. So bear with me. There it is. It's under surface, unroll developable surface. And when I do that, I get some options. It says select curves on polysurface to unroll, explode yes, labels no, keep properties no. I'm going to talk about what these are in just a second. But essentially what this does when I say enter is it will create, come on. Still thinking, this is not a particularly hard thing, come on. It will create a flat surface for me that's over at 0.00 that represents, so there's the surface, no, stop. There's the surface there that represents this piece that I had selected before, okay? But it can be very, very challenging to unroll these surfaces and figure out how they all glue back together if we don't do them all at once. And so instead of just selecting an individual surface, I'm going to take this a step further. Let me go ahead and create a top and a bottom for this building because somehow I've managed to lose the top and the bottom. Okay, so I have a top there. Create a bottom here real quick. time. Okay. Now that I have a top and a bottom, I'll go ahead and take the whole object, and then I'm going to join that object together. So I'll go up to it's under Edit, Join, and that now becomes one. It's supposed to become one polysurface. Why didn't I? Oh, how nice, right? You gotta love it when things don't do what they're supposed to do. Somehow, I really managed to mess this up. Sorry about that. I have a bunch of surfaces on top of themselves. Let's see if we can fix this. All right, see if we can join that. And let's move this one. And it's still being terrible. Huh, okay. You know what? Give me a second. I'm just going to make a new building because this is really not working for me right now. So let me go ahead and create a new building really quickly so you can start to see this. So at 100 feet, 200 feet. Actually, you know what? Since I had that building, let me just create a few curves from it. I'm going to duplicate edges 1, 2, 3, 4. Because this may happen to you. You may end up like me and have something that gets messed up. 6, 7. So all I did was I duplicated my edges around my object. Let's move these over so that they're by themselves. And then I'm going to select the opposite pieces like this, and we'll loft and build each of the pieces as they go together. So let's take this and this, loft. It's always a safe bet, especially even if you have double curvature and it won't let you unroll the surface. If you duplicate the edges, the major corners, and then loft between them, you know that that's a flat, undevelopable surface between them. Therefore, you're in all likelihood going to be able to do the export or to do the unroll. Go ahead and take this, and let's patch that. There we go. And let me also patch the bottom here. It's essentially, I could do a surface from 3 or 4 corner points and join them together. I can do the edges like this and then patch. It's just really what feels right for you. Did I do the wrong one? Yeah, I did. It's this one. Okay, so now I have that shape the way it should have been, and I should be able to take the shape and I should be able to join them together into one polysurface. That's what we were after. Okay? Now that it's joined together in one polysurface, I'm going to go ahead and make my life a little bit easier. I'll turn off my environment so the infinite plane goes away, and I'm going to create a new layer here, and I'm going to call this Unroll, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of my layer stack right there, and I'm going to make it active. And now with that layer active, I'll select my object, and I'm going to type unroll surface, unroll SRF, or I can go up to the surface menu and select unroll developable surface. And when I do that, it of course is going to tell me that I can't do it because it's not a developable surface, even though I just did this. It probably means that one of my patches at the end is incorrect. So let's go back and fix those. They're curving. We go ahead and just do 2 rectangles. Going to join that together, trim, and get rid of that. And trim that little piece there. That might have been my problem piece right there. All right, let's try that again. So this, plus this, plus this, and this, join, one poly surface, unroll surface. There we go. So it's going to ask me to select the curves on the poly surface to unroll. Right now, I'm not going to do anything about that. Explode, I'm going to set to yes. Labels, I'm going to set to yes. So I click on labels, and keep properties, no. Okay. Now, when I do this and I press enter, you'll see that I get a couple things. One, on my original building, I get a bunch of labels that go around each surface. And on the unrolled surfaces here, I get a bunch of labels there as well. Okay, this is going to help me glue this object back together. Okay, so let's look at this in the top view for a second so we can see the pieces. And this is a lot like if you guys remember in 130 when you had to draw the shape and then cut it out and glue it back together. This is essentially what Rhino's doing. Okay, so obviously this piece is the top, and these 2 pieces are the bottom, there and there. So what I want to start to do is I want to start to match up where these pieces fall next to each other. So you see here at the bottom, I have a piece 24, and I have another label for 24. So let's move this piece over to here so that 24 and 24 line up together. Okay? Then I probably have something labeled 28. Let's see here. I'm not seeing. Let's see if I have 26. You have to love it when your numbers don't line up. All right, well, here's 1. We'll start with 1. We move 1 over here to 1. I'm going to rotate along 1. So that that lines up there. All right, then we'll take 0, and I'll move 0 to line up right there, and we'll rotate to right there. We have a 32. Let's move the 32 to right here, and let's rotate to right there. Okay, do you see how these pieces are starting to come together? Right? I also know, and why the numbers don't match up for me, I'm not quite sure, but I know that this end here is going to match up right there. So those 2 are there. And now it's a matter of how do I put these other pieces in. So number 31, let's see what the best logic is here. So number 3 and number 3 can go together. Like that. And let's see if we can find a 2. There's a 2. Let's move 2 to right there. And let's move 4 to right there. All right, so then we have these last 2 pieces. And these 2, we've got 31 and why they don't match up, I don't know. But 31 here is going to go right there, so we can move 31 right here. Right there. Right, we want to make sure that they don't overlap, which they don't. That means we can cut it out. And then we'll take this piece and we'll move it. And why my numbers don't match, I'm not quite sure. They should match, but for some reason they're not. We'll put that right there as well. And so in this case, those 2 overlap. That's going to be a problem. We have to kind of sort out how we could change this organization. Probably the easiest thing to do would be to take this and move it to this end right there. And again, I have to rotate it to make it match. There to there. Because we don't want to have pieces that overlap each other. Okay? And so what I've done is I've reassembled this building such that if I were to fold it together and glue it, it would make a my shape, essentially. But I need to take it a step further. I need to act as if this is something I'm going to laser cut, so I need to do some cutting and engraving layers. So let me go create a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer laser cut. And I'll create a sublayer for cut and a sublayer for engrave. And you guys remember from the topography that the cut layer needs to be red and the engrave layer needs to be blue. Okay? And I'm going to start with the engrave layer active, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to duplicate these edges. So let me go ahead and duplicate edge, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to say that edge, this edge, that. The other option would be duplicate border, in which case you'd get every border. Sometimes going through and mentally working through the numbers will help you figure out which pieces are which. And you don't end up with double lines. All right, let's see here. Let's take this, that, and that. And that. Okay, so I have all of them, and when I hit enter, I'll get a bunch of blue lines that then outline my drawing. If I were to turn off the unrolled surfaces, there's all of my blue lines. Okay? Now I did these in blue because I want to, in some places I'm going to cut them out, but in some places I want to have a little tab that I can glue together. So I'm going to do a few offsets in certain places. So let me go ahead and do offset. Well, before I do that, I'll make cut active. I'm going to offset. And my distance, I'll type D for distance. I don't know what the exact distance is going to be, but I want it to be, maybe about that much. Okay? And so then we'll go ahead and we'll start offsetting. So my first one there, I'll offset, and that's one tab. But I need to know where the tabs are on the opposite side so that I don't create another tab. So if I have tabs, there and there, for example, those are going to glue to this piece here, so I don't put tabs on this, right? But I might put a tab here, and that's going to glue where the top is here. See how I kind of am nesting them a little bit? So let's say that I go ahead and I do tabs on the opposite sides here and here. It means I'm not going to have a tab on these little pieces, there and there, or there and there. Okay? So let's go ahead and tab this. And we'll tab that, which means we won't have a tab here. We'll go ahead and tab this one, Oops, that wasn't what I wanted. And this one. And then we'll go ahead and create some tabs at the bottoms of these. And that will help us glue these pieces to this base once it folds. Okay? And I don't think we need any others. Those are glued. Those are glued. All right, I'm just checking. Okay, so now I have to do a little bit more cleanup. So on the ends here, we'll put those together. Sometimes when you're doing this, it's easier to just make some in-field modifications after the laser cutting is done. But if you can do this ahead of time, it'll save you a little bit of time. So that's now ready. Those don't need to overlap. We'll look at where they intersect. Let me turn on intersection here. And we'll go to right there. And then we'll trim this and this so that that's clean. We'll draw this back here. Draw this back here. Now, right there, there is no tab, so this isn't an engrave anymore. This should really be a cut. So let's change the object layer. And that then is a cut. We'll draw from there to there. Same thing from the intersection here. And we'll trim this there and there. That one's just a little bit long. I'm going to go ahead and make this an engrave, or a cut line. And then I'll also just trim off that little piece there. All right, so we're currently all the way around. We're here. This, that, this, and this are all also going to be cut lines. So let's change them. That was not what I wanted to do. Okay, so there we are. One more little cleanup here and there. And now I have the shape that's necessary to be able to go walk over to the laser cutter, cut it out, glue it together. It would make my shape. Okay? So what I want you to do for posting today is I want you to show me this red and blue line thing. And so in order to do that, you can go to your capture and then capture to file. And that's going to give me a screenshot of the red and the blue. Okay? But before we get too far into this, I do want to show you another option. And I'm going to make a fresh building here and just show you how this a little bit more simple so you don't have to watch me do it. But we do have the ability to unroll all of the floors with this. And if we did that, then we could have little score marks where every one of the floors would line up, which can be really nice in a model. So I do want to show you how that works. So bear with me for just a second while I create a new little drawing here. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and make unroll active again. And let me, so we'll say at 100 feet, comma 200 feet with a height of 600 feet. All right, let's take this one. That's cage. Sorry, I can't type. There we go. Let's do a bounding box, a world, and just 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, and 2. There we go. Yep. Let me take the middle section, and I'm just going to move it slightly this way. Okay, again, very simple building, but I want to show you how this works. Okay, so let me do the floors. Larger than the building itself. First one we're going to move vertically by 20 feet. And then I'm going to array x is 1, y is 1, z is 37. And they're going to be at 16 feet apart. And we'll go ahead and hit enter to finish. So there those are. Okay, those were all the ceilings. We'll go ahead and take this bottom one. We're going to move it. Copy vertically by 4 feet. And now we're going to array this. So let me go to array. 1, 1, and 37 again. This time it's 16 feet. There we go. We'll finish. All right. So now I had all those floors. And we could trim off the excess. So let's trim. And there we go. I have my floors. Okay. Now, when I do the unroll surface, it can't actually work with the floors themselves. Instead, I want to do an intersect. And I'll do the intersect on a new layer. So we'll call this floor. I'll call it floor curves for lack of something better. Let's make it active. And I'm going to take all of that, and I'm going to type intersect. And it's going to give me a bunch of curves. There are all the curves. Okay. Now that I have those curves, and they're on that floor layer, when I go to do the unroll surface, so we'll do it once again on the surface, unroll surface. Here, when it says select curves on polysurface to unroll, I'll right-click and I'll say select objects on that curves layer, which selects all of the curves. And now when I hit enter, and let me select these. Hold on, select objects. There we go. So that they're not overlapping each other. There. It unrolled all of the curves for every floor with my unroll. Okay? So now at this point, if I were looking at this object in the top view, there they are. I could actually go as far as deleting the surface itself, and you can see there are all those floors. Okay? So let me come back. Let me duplicate my edges. Actually, let me arrange them first. But I do have to make sure that I select all of the objects when I do this. So let's move this to here. Let's move this one there. Rotate there. Move them. Rotate. Again, I'm making sure all those curves stay with my building. All of these. Those overlapped a little bit, so let's make sure I get the curves. Let's move. This is going to go down below here. Right there. Rotate. There. And let me take this last one. And we'll move this. Okay, so now that one's there as well. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate my edges again. So we'll walk around and we'll say this, this, this. Okay, so I have all of those duplicated, and let's put them on the engrave layer. And then I want to select all of those curves. So we'll select all of these, select all of these, select all of these, and we'll select all of these. We're going to make sure all of those end up on the engrave layer as well. So let me change object layer. And then we can go ahead and switch and turn off the floor layers altogether. And now you see that we have, that's an extra, right? All of the floors identified everywhere. And we can go ahead and cut this out. So again, I have to create the tabs. So I'll do that on the cut layer. So let's offset. And we'll say that one and that one each get a tab. This one and this one get a tab. Let's do tabs on either side up here. Okay, so that glues to that. This goes to the top. This goes to the top. One more tab we'll put right there, like that. And then I have to go around and clean this up. So a few more. Now, in reality, bending these tabs and having them work is going to be a little bit challenging. You'll probably end up scoring them with an X-Acto knife to help them align better. But again, you don't actually have to physically build this. I just like to show you how. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim these off. So we'll go ahead and go to trim. I'll get rid of this and this. But those lines and these lines need to be on the cut layer. Good. This and that need to be on the cut layer. And that needs to be on the cut layer. And then we have to connect these in as well. Like that. So now when I go to glue this one together, this one will show engraved lines for where all of the floors are as well. Okay, so it's a little bit more precise, not something you have to do as part of assignment 203 or this exercise, but I like to show you that as an option because it makes the final building turn out that much better. Okay, so you're going to work through and create one of these today. You will also need to do one for your assignment 203. If your building has double curvature or it's not unrolling correctly, go through and extract the corners and re-loft the building together so that they're flat segments, and then you should be able to unroll it. And if you run into trouble, let me know. Okay? Are there any questions about this? No? I'm going to go into my office and I'll grab the sample so that you can see how these kind of glue together and how they work. Okay?